Stars on Mars is a new reality show on Fox that follows 12 celebrities facing off in a simulated Mars habitat where rations are scarce, and the contestants must complete elimination challenges to stick around. On this podcast, we like to discuss the most recent installment of a different series every show. The Experiment Begins is the title of the pilot, which premiered June 5th, 2023. Join us as we talk about the pros, the cons, the premise, the cast, and our rating. Welcome to today's episode.
We don't do a lot of competition reality shows. I think we did Titan Games, Wipeout. I think we even did baseball at some point in time.
But you consider baseball a reality television show?
I'm talking about kind of the competitive aspect.
What's interesting to me is that this is completely unscripted. Despite all the work that's gone into it, a lot of reality shows, especially the ones that they're mentioning, like Real Housewives or Vanderpump Rules, I imagine a lot of that has at least a guiding force. In this, it feels like it's more organic.
Actually, it's kind of like the reality shows I was watching when I was younger. I'd always watch those cooking reality shows like Hell's Kitchen, Top Chef, and it reminded me a lot of those pilots where they would just kind of introduce the people first, and then maybe you would get an elimination at the very end of the episodes.
Mm-hmm. What I guess I mean is that the drama didn't feel like it was fake, because it felt like all these people were meeting each other for the first time, a bunch of B-list celebrities. I also found it interesting that you have William Shatner being the host of it. It's actually the second show we've done where William Shatner has hosted after The Unexplained. Mm-hmm. However, The Unexplained is a documentary, which I had to remind myself of.
I was going to say it felt like he was just doing another episode of The Unexplained whenever he was shown on camera. He was using the same type of voice. He's very recognizable, obviously, but it seemed like he was doing the same type of character that he plays in that show.
You mean William Shatner voice?
Yeah.
His
very
voice.
Serious, very
the same voice he's been doing since Star Trek, obviously.
Yes.
He's 92 years old. He's stuck in his ways. He also seemed like he was phoning this one in from home because he was always seated and he was just in mission control. Mm-hmm. And half the episode that you would think would be narrated by him was actually narrated by the robot spaceship voice.
Yeah, they actually, now that you mention it, they usually do have the host being the one that narrates. It's kind of like the circle.
Because he's 92 years old and they were just happy to have him aboard, especially when he's doing his Priceline commercials on the side. The second show it's familiar of is the Habitat-based Moonbase 8 show.
It's also the second, I feel like, show of Mars this year after Fired on Mars, which was an adult animated show given. But still,
they've done a lot of space shows, and even Steve Carell's done multiple space shows. But I find it funny because Travis Kelce had his own reality show that we talked about in the Moonbase 8 show. And yet, this is more, he could have fit into these type of characters, wouldn't he?
Yeah, and I would say also For All Mankind, Season 3, because you're always talking about Mars, you're always seeing that, the Martian, there's so many different
I thought you were, doing a dig at it because of how bad it got. And it's this is almost better than that.
I'm just saying that whenever because they shot this thing in Australia, in fact, I found it funny because apparently the Australian government didn't have any knowledge that Lance Armstrong was going to be in this show. This came as a surprise to them. I think,
does that matter? Were they upset?
It was for some not really, but I think that they were shooting in Australia for tax incentives. That's the reason.
It's funny that they all decided to go to, especially Marshawn Lynch and Richard Sherman, famous NFL players, decided to go to Australia to film this series. But it makes sense for the environment and for how much they wanted to make it look like it was in the middle of nowhere in the space station. I guess I was thinking maybe Nevada or somewhere in the middle of the desert.
Before we get into it, I have a 3 truths 1 lie game, and I was saying, we don't do a lot of reality shows, so I thought that I would center it around those particularly. All of these lasted 1 season, but you have to see which one is fake out of all of them. Okay, so the first one is Celebrity Pet Swap. It premiered on ABC in 2012. It was made by the same people who did Celebrity Wife Swap, just with pets. Celebrities swap pets with each other for a week, and then the show was canceled after record low ratings, even in its big primetime slot.
Are you going to tell me who the celebrities were who swapped the pets?
No.
Do I get to find out if it's Charlie Sheen's salamander?
No.
Or something okay, all right, go ahead.
And then there's the second one is Bridalplasty, 2010. Featured engaged women competing in challenges to win plastic surgery procedures before their weddings. It received significant backlash,
sounds real. Yeah.
Only running 1 season.
Okay.
Then there was Shattered in 2004. Contestants were sleep deprived for a week and then competed in mental and physical challenges for money. A contestant's lawsuit led to the show's cancellation. And then there was Hater, but the 8 was an actual 8, the number 8, was hosted by Mario Lopez. Celebrities confronted their haters and attempted to win them over. The show got massive negative feedback, canceling the show after a few episodes.
Is this like a Mark Maron thing where they tried to work out their beefs?
Yes.
So I'm going to say it was the celebrity pet swap. Am I right?
Yes, you got that correct. All the
Yeah.
other ones. I thought that because that was the most tame that you were going to guess.
I don't know if it was
at.
the most tame, especially with how like serious people are about their pets.
Bridalplasty?
Even more than their like husbands or wives. I feel like people are very close to their pets, or some are. I mean, especially rich people, they'll like clone them a billion times, and you'll have like Cindy the 15th, and if Cindy the 15th died because you rented him out to Ronda Rousey, like I don't know. Anyways, let's get to the contestants of this show. You've got 12 of them. Starting with Christopher Mintz-Plasse, who I was really surprised to see just walk in and start the show. He's from Superbad, McLovin, Kick-Ass, Fright Night, the Far Cry game, right? Mm-hmm. And then I couldn't think of anything else that I'd seen him in.
Well, actually, the Far Cry game, I'm not sure, was he actually in that one? Because he was in the, like, Far Cry promotional 6 video campaign.
That's what I meant.
Okay,
because I never actually played the Far Cry game, but I meant, like, has he done anything in the last 5 years?
Yeah, he was in Promising Young Woman.
And then he was also in that one where he was, like, a LARPer, right? Where he was like, well, that wasn't Role Models or something, but he played a LARPer in something. Okay. And then, so he's there, and he's kind of the comic guy who's introducing a bunch of characters, and then you got Ronda Rousey, professional wrestler. I remember, 10 years ago or 8 years ago, her fight against Holly Holm, where she ended up dying. Right. Big disappointment. But then she's like still one of the best wrestlers, female wrestlers of all time. You got Tom Schwartz, who I've never heard of before, just like Christopher Mintz-Plasse. He hadn't heard of him. From Vanderpump Rules. Tallulah Willis, who is Demi.
Well, going back to the Tom Schwartz thing.
I skip over him because they really don't give him much.
Yeah, I looked him up because I didn't know anything about him. Apparently, there's this huge Vanderpump Rules scandal going out right now by this
about
person's
him.
Name. No, well, I thought it might be him because the first person's name is Tom.
Oh no, that's the star of the show.
Yeah,
I also looked up to
so you actually didn't know about that?
No, I just looked up the Tom Schwartz to get his name correct, and I saw the first person. I was like, I thought it was Schwartz, and then I went down the list, and but he says that show's been around for a really long time, and it's just about a bunch of people having sex together or something.
It's basically like Too Hot to Handle, I think, on Netflix.
All right, so then you have Tallulah Willis, who is Demi and Bruce Willis's daughter. It felt a little strange because that was the way they introduced her. None of her credits. It kind of just was like, and then later on, Tinashe said she's just the quintessential Nepo baby, which again feels like a little bit of a slight insult.
That didn't feel like a slight insult. I found that like a complete insult.
It's cool that she's owning it, and she sort of was, because that's all she ever talked about was her parents and Ashton Kutcher, which I felt was because she was nervous and she just wanted to fit in. And so I did feel a little bad for her, but I also felt like she didn't have really a reason to be there. She isn't really a B-list celebrity. But then you have Adam Rippon, who is the figure skater, the first openly gay male athlete to win a medal in the Winter Olympics. I think he also went on to be an announcer at other Olympic things. Yeah. Really recognizable voice. Portia William Gubadiah, the Real Housewife of Atlanta.
Yeah.
She I liked.
You liked her?
Honestly, like, I thought that they would be really smug and egotistical and preppy and stuff like that, but every cutaway she had was so practiced. She was so used to it. Her sassy responses, she even made fun of Marshawn Lynch when he became leader, and I thought that, like, because of that practice, there were no nerves there. I liked her personality.
I do have to say that at the beginning of this show, I thought that I was going to hate it, especially with the cutaways, because it just felt so Big Brother to me. Like, you see, I guess, what's going to happen in future seasons, a lot of these B-list celebrities like Ariel Winter and just other people as well kind of getting mad at each other, and I thought that was going to be the whole episode, but no, actually they came across pretty genuine, kind of like we've already talked about.
Yeah, well, when they all live in pods and stuff, of course it's going to be a little bit like Big Brother, or The Circle. Ariel Winter, it's interesting that you call her the B-list celebrity, because out of all of them, I thought she probably, besides Christopher Mintz-Plasse, had the most like going into it acting credits.
Like with Modern Family?
Modern Family was huge, man. It was like one of the biggest shows for the longest time. And she was also on College Humor, that Dora the Explorer skit from a really long time ago that I showed you. And then Marshawn Lynch and Richard Sherman, we mentioned. And it's cool to see Marshawn Lynch continue his filmography because, of course, he was in The Murder Show
and he
with Will Arnett.
Like the fan favorite, I think.
Didn't he come back?
He came back for the Christmas special, and I was glad to see Richard Sherman there as well because, like Richard Sherman says, they're both friends, and having friends of there, you're able to see them kind of interacting with each other. And I thought that was the best part of the show.
Richard Sherman has always been super outspoken, like one of the best defensive players, but like he has always been the guy that you see cutaway clips of after the football game where he's just spouting off and angry at people. It's really cool to see him, like, he's actually a super smart dude, it seemed like. Like, out of all the people here, I give him probably a really good chance of winning this game. Because he seemed like when he nominated Marshawn Lynch, he could have been the leader himself, but it feels like he wanted to be sort of the person leading behind the leader.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was kind of obvious. Like, you're saying that he's almost kind of coasting by, and I can definitely see where you're coming from.
No, not coasting. I think he just didn't want the responsibility of having to man everything, but still be on charge. Like, he was propping up his friend at the same time as he was doing all the work.
That's true.
I don't know.
I mean, well, no one really wanted to be the leader.
That's what Adam Rippon said. He said they were all sizing each other up. And then to round it out, you had Lance Armstrong walk in. And if Lance Armstrong walks into your reality show, I don't know how I would react to that. Because I lived through the rise and fall of this guy. First, he's a cancer survivor. He's a huge role model to a bunch of people. You've got the Live Strong bracelets that went around the U.S. like crazy. I think it went around the world. 7 wins for the Tour de France, kind of brought back biking as like a revolutionary. Like, he made it what it is. And then all the bad stuff came out, the doping, his Oprah interview, forcing others to dope on his team. This guy has been presented as both a hero and a monster, but more recently a monster, but he embraces the publicness of it. He doesn't let himself be canceled. He's getting the opportunity, though, to go on things like this, which is strange because most people who get canceled don't get that opportunity.
Definitely not.
And I don't know if it comes from the fact, like, a few years ago, Andy Samberg and his team did that. What was it called?
It wasn't Tour de France, but that
they
was
made
the
a comedy
of it.
About him, and they were going to cast someone else, and then they just reached out to him, and he said he would do it, and so he made a full-out comedy about himself, and it's just so strange. He seems like a cool dude, but I feel like he's inside maybe a monster. Like, I just don't know.
He's just trying to redo his image at this point, but honestly...
Yeah, he called it a complicated public life, but it's the difference between what you look like when you're on the television screen, which he can make himself seem as nice as possible there and have friends with Marshawn Lynch. But then you hear these interviews about how much of a dick he was to his own team back in the day, and that was how they ended up winning, was by cheating. And it feels like there's something weird there.
Do you think that he has a big chance of winning?
No. I don't think he's there to win. I think, like you said, he's there to improve his public image. Ariel Winter, though, like, I thought she would be... She confused him with Neil Armstrong. The moon landing was in 1969. Neil Armstrong died 10 years ago in his 80s. She thought Lance Armstrong was a guy in his 90s who, like, and there were so many ways in which she could have... Oh, man. It took her half the episode to realize that she had made a mistake, and obviously she felt a little embarrassed about it, but wow, that was crazy. And I don't know if she was the only one. The show kind of left that vague, but definitely it was funny to see both Christopher Mintz-Plasse and Richard Sherman share a look. Like, those are not two people I would think of as, like, friends, and they had the unique experience of looking at each other and be like, oh my God.
They actually got him. And
that was perfect.
And then the last part, Natasha Leggero. Have you seen her comedy specials or anything? Because I didn't know who she was.
Yeah, you did, because she's the star of Another Period. But, so she's a comedian, and it was funny that Ariel did recognize her, but Marshawn Lynch didn't. So they all sort of knew of each other in a way, but she didn't come around until William Shatner had made himself present as well. He comes in on the TV screen at Mission Control. He presents them with 3 tasks. First, they have to choose the base commander, and Ronda Rousey recommends that Ariel Winter become the base commander, but
I don't think that would have worked.
I mean, someone's going to have to. He's only going to be base commander for the episode we watched. Then it's someone else.
I understand, but I'm just
saying... I think they're all going to cycle through, or until they're eliminated. And then the second mission, of course, is to get the 12th contestant from their broken pod. Reminded me so much of RimWorld, because if you've ever played the game...
Why?
Yeah, if you ever played the game, it's about you crash landing and you're doing a bunch of tasks, and then every once in a while some broken down ship will fall and you'll have to go save the person in it, stick them in a bed and fix them up. So Natasha Leggero joins the group, rounding out 12 contestants. It was really easy to keep track of them, though, because they weren't playing characters.
Yes.
Because they were playing themselves, it was, and most of them I was familiar with.
The show I have to give biggest credit to is that even though there were 12 contestants, I felt like I got to know every single one of them. They all felt like by the end, when they were actually eliminating someone, I was a little disappointed with like someone was going to be going home because of how good I felt the show did.
Before it ended the first episode, who did you want to win?
Who did I want to win?
Yes.
I actually wanted Christopher Mintz-Plasse to win.
Yeah, so let's get to that. So William Shatner sends them on this last mission. They go to sleep that night. Everything seems fine. They've all picked their commander and they're all happy. And then there's this emergency alert, kind of like the circle again. And they find out that the satellite outside has broken down. It's tipped over and that they're going to have to run out there and fix it. This is where they save Tallulah Willis, which I think is because they realized she was the weakest link. Up until then, when everybody was talking, they seemed to be having a good time. She seemed a little nervous. She went directly to her parents. That's where Tinashe went to, talking about her being a Nepo baby. And I think they were like, oh no, if we kick her out first, this might be a little unfair. So they save her. And they say, we're going to make her part of immune. In this round.
William Shatner just kind of you're right. I for a second I thought that might have been like everyone else decided that she was going to get it, but no, William Shatner is just like, Tallulah Willis, you're going to be with Marshawn Lynch.
And I think that was a producer decision, and it was fine. So she's hanging out with Marshawn Lynch there, and they're designating exactly who's going out and doing what tasks. And so everybody rushes out there, and it's a dust storm. They're able to do a full dust storm, which is cool. And so you got these B-list celebrities trying to prop up this old satellite that's outside to fix the communications.
I want to touch on the dust storm really fast. So apparently I did just some research and some facts about Mars. The sandstorms are incredibly common, and they can get up to 2 sizes of the United States just on Mars in general. So I was glad that we were able to see the first episode, kind of some accuracy.
Well, the thing about dust storms on Mars, though, is that they're very affluent, but they're lighter because like gravity is different there. The winds are not going to be as heavy. But at the same time, when you saw them come inside and all their faces in the spacesuits had been like plastered with mud, that also I don't think would happen, because I think the spacesuits would be more like they wouldn't allow dust in. But it was still cool to see it because you could definitely tell that they were exhausted from doing the work.
I mean, temperatures can apparently drop so much from night to day on Mars. I wasn't surprised. Like 23 degrees Fahrenheit, I think it can be near the equator in the day, and then it can go to like something like negative 112
when they talk about
at night.
Yeah, when they talk about terraforming Mars, that's exactly what they're talking about, is keeping the temperature level, finding a homeostasis that will allow for humans to live there, the atmosphere, keeping it so that we can breathe there. And right now, it's just not at that. There's just not enough oxygen in the air. And also the, as you were talking about, the windstorms and such. So yeah, these guys go out there and they're running around, and then they kind of have to vote when they finally get back inside and they fix the thing as to who was the most helpful, right? And you have 3 of them. Natasha Leggero kind of gives us a hand by telling us directly that Adam Rippon, herself, and Christopher Mintz-Plasse kind of just stayed in the background doing nothing, pretending to help out with stuff. So I was surprised when she was saved with some of the early few, because Marshawn Lynch and Tallulah Willis made their determination as to the first, 9 that they were going to save, and the last 3 would have to fight for it. It seemed like Marshawn Lynch had a beef with Tom Schwartz. Because even during the time, like, they kept showing them talking on the radio, and he just was like, "What are you doing, Tom? What are you doing, Tom?" And Tom was actually like participating, so it was nice to have everybody else jump in and say, "No, he was part of this thing." And then Marshawn Lynch said, "What was it? Any negatives?" Like he was searching out to try to get this guy kicked off.
I think he was really mad that Tom just did not answer him like at all. Even when they're like, "Tom, are you alive?" That was when finally Tom decided to just give like a 1-word answer, so they knew he was okay. And I think Marshawn Lynch was mad by that.
Yeah, so the people on the field had more information than those back at the base. So then it was down to Adam Rippon and Christopher Mintz-Plasse, and they end up saving Adam Rippon. And I, like, between the argument, I knew I was going to impede the mission, so I stepped out, which was Christopher Mintz-Plasse's thing. And it made sense in a weird way. Like, if you're going to have to defend yourself for not participating, at least give an answer. Versus, I'm hot, so I should stay. And end up siding with the guy who said he was hot, so he should stay. I feel like I want to know how close that vote was. And I also want to understand the logic behind it, because maybe, okay, they're like, he's an Olympic athlete, so he might be able to help us later on with a mission. But as far as the show's concerned, I think it would have benefited more from Mintz-Plaza's like personality, because it contrasted a little bit with the rest of it. They already have a ton of athletes there.
Okay, so I agree with you, but I think what did Christopher Mintz-Plaza in this episode is that when he says that he felt like he would impede the mission, had to step out of the way, he even said it himself right before he said it. He was like really getting kind of mad, and I think that did turn people off.
What do you mean he was getting
He was getting emotional about it. He said it himself right before he spoke, and then like you could kind of tell he was getting a little angry that he was in that position.
Oh,
do you remember?
I missed that. The only part where I saw him get a little upset was when he was like, "I'm tired of people calling me McLovin," and then they had Marshawn Lynch call him McLovin. But
that was more like, I think, playful.
Yeah.
Like, right before, as he was giving his testimony, he even said like, I'm getting a little emotional over this, and it seemed like he was kind of taking it more seriously.
I don't know. It seems like that was more part of his acting. Like he was laughing as he was saying that. Like he was like, "Oh man, I'm getting emotional here." What was really happening is I had to stay out because everybody else, I would have gotten in the way. It was just so busy. Like he was trying to get people to side with him on the fact that it was so busy, and they did. So that's why it was so confusing that they saved Adam Rippon. And I just feel like I was sad to see Mintz-Plaza go. I don't know if I was rooting for him to win the entire show, but I definitely wanted to give him more of a shot than just the first episode.
I wanted him to be, in more than just the first episode. I'm sure they're going to do a circle thing where he comes back for the finale.
I don't know about that, because then he would have to stick around for that long. And the thing about the people on the circle is that, yes, they're not as practiced as like celebrities would be at being in front of a camera, but they also don't have as much to do because they're being paid to be there. Well, I feel like Christopher Mintz-Plaza probably just getting out of Australia.
I don't think this is the last time that we're going to see him. I just have a feeling, but okay.
Okay. All right. Pros and cons for this show. I feel like they could have picked worse celebrities. So I was actually happy with the pool that they picked. I thought that their interplay, their chemistry, their friendships actually worked. The Richard Sherman, Christopher Mintz-Plaza that I was talking about, Ariel Winter and Adam Rippon seemed to get to enjoy each other's company a lot.
Well, they were paired together, right? To
clean.
Yeah.
And then they bonded over that, and you could see people rolling their eyes. Marshawn and Lance, I thought, like, no way I'm going to enjoy Lance Armstrong. But Marshawn, like, teasing him and Lance Armstrong teasing back about their just prospective careers and stuff, it was cool.
Seeing the celebrities interact, I agree, was the show's bread and butter. And I know that
it's just cool personalities.
I know they were friends already, but I've already said I think the best interaction was between Richard Sherman and Marshawn Lynch, even though you see them kind of getting mad at each other at the very end. I know, but I'm saying that I enjoyed seeing that as well.
Yeah, and then there's no romance element, and
thank God.
Especially with a reality show, you can always say thank you for that, because again, the other show that we reviewed with The Circle, right? It was all about, like, half of it was just about fake romance.
This last season, I think, was called like the romance or the hookup season or something like that.
No, it wasn't. It was called like the singles or something like that. They were all single, except some of them were catfishing. So and my favorite actually by the end. So Tinashe, right? I'd never heard of her before, R&B singer, but then I was like, okay, she actually seems pretty like smart. Like, I think she's low key going to be the wild card and get in there, because like everything she said was actually to a point. And I found out that she was actually the girl that they molded the Polar Express girl off of.
Wait,
so
what?
Back in the day, she was like the model for that like 10-year-old girl in the Polar Express, which I found fascinating.
Why? Yeah. How did you figure that out?
Because I was like, who is this person? So I went to the thing and I was like, okay, so she's a singer. Yeah, but she also used to be an actress.
That's crazy. I feel like that's the biggest fact, and I didn't even come up with it.
No, but I mean, it's just, didn't you recognize like their personalities by the end? That you got a good sense of it? Like, I still think that Tallulah Willis is sort of the weakest link. Like, she hasn't... It's shown that she has like what it takes to make it through a full competition. Yeah. But I feel like the Portia Williams, Gubadiah, and Tinashe, like they have enough going for them that, but like are going to stay in this like background for a long time.
I think that
Richard Sherman, I think, is going to like, his personality is too buoyant not to like jump to the top of the list by the end, and so I think he runs a risk.
It seems like fans at this point are picking Marshawn Lynch again as being their favorite person in this episode.
He's definitely got the most unique personality.
Decider seemed like they were almost for him, saying that he was like the main star of this episode.
Yeah, he just doesn't give a fuck, does he? Yeah, but overall, I did enjoy it. I would give it a 6 out of 10, a little bit better than just a regular normal show. I think Fox could have done worse as far as reality television. And Stars on Mars, yeah, 6 out of 10.
This was never going to hit like a 7 for me. It was just if it was going to pass or not. And in the end, I will push your 6 out of 10 because I feel like although it seems like it's reality and there are, I feel like manufactured shots that maybe weren't in the same scene as other things, I do think that it was entertaining enough. 6 out of 10, and yeah, there are some actual really funny moments in it. So, and I know that IMDb.
I do think that Adam Rippon's going to have to like step up and not just depend on what it's like. Oh, I'm hot, so I should stay. That's such a basic argument. It's so bad.
IMDb
I just feel like
gave it 6.
That alone should have just disqualified him.
Yeah, IMDb gave him a 6.1 out of 10, and then Rotten Tomatoes, there isn't a tomato meter, but there's like 1 rotten and 1 tomato, so it seems like it's just kind of middle of the road type of reviews.
It's just starting out. There's only been 1, but it's cool when you go to the Wikipedia page. It's like Harper's Island, where every week it cancels out a person.
So Christopher Mintz-Plasse is already canceled.
Already has a big X on it. Yes. So you can just keep up to date on that, or you can watch the show. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.